Back in April of 2020, when my channel was just starting out, I got the opportunity to check out an application from a relatively new company, Mooer. The application was called GE Labs and was made for iOS devices. I immediately got slammed with comments complaining that it wasn't available for Android and Windows. And I don't develop apps, so I'm not sure what these people wanted me to do about it, but anyways. The app let you capture analog gear and create something called MNRS samples, which could be used across most of Mooer's devices. They even had a website that centralized your sample files so that you could share them with other people or download them for other Mooer devices. Now I know what you're thinking. Taylor, who cares about this? A lot of companies do this now. You are correct, fictitious internet contrarian. However, in April of 2020, the only other technology like this was the Kemper, and you still had to buy a Kemper to use it. The Mooer iOS app was free-ish. Basically, if you wanted more than one sample at a time, you had to pay for it, but I'm getting off track. You could use these samples on the relatively inexpensive GE200, which was their most inexpensive device at that time that could load them, and cost roughly $300 compared to the Kemper's $1,500-ish dollars. The question that occurred to me at the time was, why can't I just do this sampling thing on my GE200? The GE300, their flagship unit, had a tone match feature, but that wasn't really the same thing. And as amazing as it was to have this freedom to now be able to use Kemper-esque tech on something that I could actually afford, it was horribly inconvenient. Not only did you have to have an iOS device that was compatible, but you needed a compatible audio interface that had enough in and out options and worked with Apple products. Well, here we are now almost 5 years later, and they finally put the tech into a self-contained unit that you can make the samples from. But it's been almost 5 years since they released the sample technology, and the landscape for these type of units has changed so dramatically. So where does Mooer and the new GS1000 fit into the market? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Taylor. I want to go into my thoughts on this as well as my praises and criticisms later on in the video. But first, let me tell you about the GS1000 and what it does. The GS1000 is a multi-effects unit that now finally features the ability to create samples of your analog gear into 4 different tone categories: distortion pedals, preamps, full rigs, and cabinets. Also, real quick, in the informational material they send me, they call this bagging, which I found amusing, and I thought you might enjoy that as well. The GS1000 features a flexible dual path chain, innovative AI EQ master, a feature I probably won't dive into in this video, but it exists. Built-in groove station, aka drum looper, seamless patch switching, we will test that out. 340 effects modules from overdrives to reverbs to delays. It also comes with editing software that easily allows you to control all the parameters, as well as adding your own IRs straight from your computer. On the hardware side, we have a 5-inch LCD touchscreen, 4 feet switcher button clickers that you can expand with Mooer's wireless F4 foot switch if that's not enough for you, a whole bunch of crazy LED lighting, and a Halloween color palette. As far as ins and outs, there is an expression pedal input, a guitar input, 1/4-inch/XLR combo mic jack input with 48-volt phantom power and dedicated gain knob, 1/4-inch stereo effects loop, a 1/4-inch unbalanced left and right output, Type-C connectivity, which, can I just pause here and appreciate this? Nothing drives me more crazy than when new products come out with older printer-style USB ports. Maybe when they don't have power switches. Maybe. And the GS1000 comes in 2 different options. The battery-powered version comes in at $579 US, while the non-battery powered version comes in at $519 US. I've got to be honest here, when they started introducing batteries into these units, I thought it was kind of a gimmick. I mean, it's cool, and I think that there are some scenarios where it's desirable, but with the GS1000 in particular, I think it's a really great and convenient feature. We'll get into why that is when we start profiling this video. Speaking of profiling, let's go bag some amps. What's up, everybody? I'm plugged into the What's up, everybody? I'm plugged into the GS1000 Li. This is the one with the lithium ion battery in it. You can tell because I don't have any power source plugged into this, right? We're just running off the battery, which is really cool when you're doing capturing for a couple reasons. I'll explain here in a minute as we get into this. But leading into that, what I'm gonna start out doing here is actually using the sampling capture. It's capturing and sampling. Or bagging. You know, call it whatever you want. I have my Krankenstein Plus here. Very cool amplifier. We're gonna take this, I'm gonna use the GS1000 Li to capture this, show you how it works, and hopefully help you avoid some complications that I ran into while I was doing this. Also, a few more disclaimers that I wanna give you for context. The GS1000 Li is extremely glossy, so if you're sensitive, like if fingerprints gross you out, sorry. I'm gonna do my best to keep this thing clean, but look, I just cleaned this off and it's already like, pretty fingerprinty. That might be a thing, you know, if you have like a fingerprint phobia. Okay. The other thing is the way that I'm recording this, I am using the built-in cab IRs for this section. There's a reason for that. However, we will go into my Bogner cabinet here and I'll mic that up because I know like that's the way I prefer to do it. And I know you guys appreciate, you know, when I actually do a mic'd up cabinet. It's just a little bit easier to do it this way in terms of the connectivity. I'm monitoring myself. You can't see it, but I'm monitoring myself with the 𝐒𝐏𝐄𝐂𝐈𝐀𝐋 cab. You guys saw the video yesterday, maybe? I'm monitoring myself with the 𝐒𝐏𝐂𝐈𝐀𝐋 cab down here, and then I'm using the output from that, running that directly into my audio interface. Yeah, that's what you're hearing right now. Yeah! Also in this video, I'm playing a Jackson American Soloist. Has EMGs in it, 81, 85, pretty typical if you've been around the channel. You know. Okay, this is a patch that I set up specifically for capturing. The way it works is I have an effects loop in here, and then I have an actual capture block that, whoa, Jesus. I have an actual capture block thing right here. That is out of the chain right now. I also did a capture of the Devil Overdrive pedal from my company, Obsidian Audio, but all that stuff's out of the chain right now. All we're listening to is the effects loop, which is the amp right now. The amp has a load box on the back of it, by the way, so I am catching the full signal path, preamp, power amp tubes. I'm using the Kali 412C IR that's built into the unit, so, you know, that's what it sounds like. Let's dial this in a little bit differently. I actually want to put a boost in here, so I'm gonna put the Devil back. So now we are boosting the actual amplifier with the capture of the Devil pedal that I did in the Mooer, and I'm gonna use this to dial it in, and then I'm gonna take it out. We're gonna capture the amplifier, and then we'll just see what happens along the way, and I'll explain, you know, kind of the complications that I had, and hopefully you can avoid them. Okay. This is pretty much how I like to have this amp set. So this is very easy. You know, one of the things that I really like about the GS1000 right out the gate is how easy this process is, how user-friendly. I didn't have to read, they actually don't have a manual right now because it's like a pre-production unit. So, you know, I just had to wing this. You know, it was easy enough for me to figure out. So you just hit the profiling button there, and then you're gonna select what you're profiling, sampling, capturing, bagging. And then it shows you the hookup thing. Since I have this hooked up in the effects loop, I need to take this cable and put it into the mic input there. And right here, I want to give a suggestion to Mooer. This is the same criticism that I had with the 𝐾𝐿 When you're doing this, it's really helpful to have an IR loader, especially for people who are like capturing amp heads like me, which is going to be a large amount of people that are using this feature. So it's really helpful to have an IR block built in here so you're not just listening to the preamp sound, but I digress, it doesn't have one right now. Maybe they will update that in the future, just like Neural DSP did with 𝐾𝐿. You have your preamp sound. I'll throw an IR on that so you don't have to listen to that. We're gonna hit the sample button and then we'll see how long this takes. How long did that take? I don't know. I'll put it on the screen right now. Okay, so here's our target. Whoa. So this is actually a good segue into my first problem. I've had this issue a few times during this process. Sometimes these profiles don't come out anything like the amp that you're trying to capture. And probably what I failed to do at the beginning of this, we're gonna exit this thing and then we're just gonna start it over again. I'm gonna go back here and I'm really gonna pay attention to the input right, which is coming back from the amplifier on this. It's actually pretty quiet right now. It's like not. We're a little bit below halfway, but I'm actually going to, doesn't tell you what correct is or what volumes to aim for though. Okay, we're gonna try it there. Let's try it one more time, see what happens. Okay, cross your fingers. Holy shit, we did it. Okay, so this time it came out much better. Quite a bit different still, but we were able to get it in the same ballpark. That is where this capture button comes in. So after you've done the sample, you can actually do this capture, and then you just play chords. And our EQ is a little bit different. We can keep doing this capture process until we get it closer if we want, or we can actually go in here and adjust this EQ. You do have the graph here to help you out. Now, obviously you can spend a ton of time dialing this in if you want. You can keep doing this capture process until you get it more in the ballpark. Now, when you go to save here, this is really, really important. I spent a bunch of time making these different models. I made like 6 of them, I think, and I saved them all on the same spot. Yeah, let me show you here. So right up here, this little unassuming box, if you click this, this is actually where your profile is going to be. And you can see we have 30 spaces here. If you don't select an empty one, or you don't select where you want it to go, it is just gonna keep saving over this first slot here. Definitely go to an empty spot here, and then you are gonna have to type this in again. And now we hit save. It's definitely in the ballpark. The gain is different. I probably could have dialed that in a little bit more, but I want to be super clear here on this because I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think that if you can get something that you're happy with that sounds like your analog gear, then, you know, does it need to be perfectly accurate? No, probably not. But I just want to give you all of this information because to those of you that are looking at purchasing one of these things, you probably want to know, you know, what the profiling process is like. I'm imagining that's probably the feature that most people are looking at with these. Okay, so now that we've gone through the whole profiling process and I've showed you kind of some of the pitfalls that I've come across and how to deal with them, or you know, how to try to deal with them, I want to hook this up through just a power amp and mic up my cabinet because that's just kind of the way that I prefer to do these demos. So we'll dial in a chain that way, and then we can talk about the GS1000, where it fits in the landscape now, and I'll give you guys my final thoughts. All right. Okay, I'm back. I have the GS1000 plugged into the Seymour Duncan power stage. That is powering this Bogner Uber cabinet. I know I usually use a Mesa 4x12. I just wanted to change things up for my own sanity. That is being mic'd up with an SE Electronics Voodoo Ribbon 1 microphone. This is a patch that I have dialed in with the built-in 𝐒𝐏5153 channel 3 amp. That's what it sounds like. Pretty brutes, man. Now in this signal chain, I have the model that I made of the Devil pedal, so let's swap that out for our 808, and then let's swap out this 𝐒𝐏5153 for the Frankenstein model that we just made. Not because those amps are similar or anything, but just because I want to show the models in here, you know? I like the model that I made more. And I know, like, this is an objective thing. You don't have to take my opinion on this, but this is one of the reasons that I really like this product. I've always been a big fan of Mooer stuff, and not only that, but their profiling, but it was always super inconvenient to do. And now that it's all in one unit, this is probably my favorite product that they've ever released. But there are a bunch of caveats to that. I will get into that more as we go through the video and at the end with my final thoughts, because I do have some pretty big criticisms that I think that you guys should know about, and also Mooer. You know, if you're watching Mooer, you're probably watching. But, you know, some things that, like, I think could really elevate this quite a bit. When it comes to the tone models, they're in the amp block. Now, you can see here it's split in between classic and boutique. I'm not a huge fan of the way that this is split up. It would be much more helpful to me instead of classic and boutique, because who knows what the difference is and how they're categorized in between classic and boutique, you know? It's just a very confusing sort of menu system. These should really just be categorized in between clean and distortion, in my opinion. Let's pull the Frankenstein out, and I want to drag one of these blocks. You know, this is really nice having the touch screen. This is a big, big improvement because you can just drag these blocks wherever you want. And then we're gonna go in here. We actually have a power amp section as well. So when I was showing you that 𝐒𝐏5150, that's a preamp sound. We need to put a power amp on that. We're gonna go with 𝐒𝐏𝐄𝐒𝐿6. And then you can see we have the power amp in, we have a presence, we have a bias. We can, you know, adjust this presence. That does sound better. I want to go back to this model though. Now remember, the reason that I'm doing this is because we captured the model with the power amp tubes using a load box. So, you know, I'm just curious how much of a difference that makes. The model that I captured sounds like it almost has a blanket lifted off of it by comparison. So that's not to say the built-in models are bad or anything like that. I'm just trying to, you know, give you some sort of frame of reference. But I think this Krankenstein profile that we made rips. I think that the Devil pedal profile that I made rips. And one more quick thing on the profiling here. I talked about the battery powered option, which I'm actually charging this now. We can actually unplug this. Doesn't need to charge anymore. One of the things that I really like about it being battery powered is not only is it convenient and mobile, you know, to take it from your computer back to like wherever you're profiling your amps or your gear or whatever. You know, if you have like a little setup like I have here, not only does it make that more convenient, but you also don't have a ground source anymore. You know, it just takes that part of it out of the equation. So not only is it more mobile, portable, but yeah, you just eliminate another potential source of noise as well. Okay, so enough with the amp stuff. Let's go through some of the effects here. And I just want to do like some super ambient nonsense for those of you that like that sort of thing. I mean, we have all the same effects that you come to know from Mooer. Let's do this Galaxy delay. Very cool. Now let's do a reverb, right? Again, a bunch of different reverbs. I'm just gonna go straight for the shimmer reverb. The effects sound really, really great. And obviously I'm only scratching the surface of what you can do. This is a fully featured multi-effects unit. So you can actually change the signal chain. So you can do serial, dual, split, mix, or parallel. Maybe we want to run a signal chain for our guitar and a signal chain for a microphone or another instrument or something like that. It's just very, very flexible in that way. And just a fun little side note here. At first, I thought the LEDs, because there's like a lot of LEDs going on this. It's like a Fortnite stream or something like that, but there are a ton of LEDs on this. I found it distracting at first, but I actually kind of like it now. You know, it gives it some character. It's kind of cool. But back to the important stuff here. The one last thing I want to check here, I want to test the switching to see if there's any gap. Yes, it appears to be gapless. I'm not the most sensitive person to that, but I know a lot of people ask me all the time, like, is there a gap when switching presets? It does not appear to have any gaps switching presets. Now I want to be very careful about what I say here because I don't want this to be misconstrued. This is by far my favorite product that Mooer has ever released, even taking the non-multi-effects units into consideration. And while this is my favorite product from them by a lot, it also gives me some major hesitations. And that's because Mooer releases a lot of products that are incredibly similar. So I'm talking to you guys here, but I'm hoping that Mooer sees this feedback and takes it to heart from someone who was rooting for them. From a consumer perspective, it is very confusing. Why do so many of these units exist? They all do slightly different things, and they're covering, in my opinion, too narrow of a price gap. If I'm a consumer that knows nothing about this, I have to go down a rabbit hole of spec sheets and YouTube videos, which I guess I technically benefit from, just to figure out what I want and which device does the things I need. I hope that in the future, Mooer spends less time developing new multi-effects units and focuses on updating and supporting this one. Because while the addition of the profiler into the actual unit is a massive improvement that I've been waiting a long time for, not much has actually changed with the technology since I first used it, at least in a meaningful way that's really obvious to me as an early user, and that's kind of a shame. I actually got out my preamp live the other day, and this is another one of my favorite things that they've released. But I almost never use it, and that is because, to illustrate my point, there's not enough that's different in between this and their other products for me to get this thing back out again. And that's even more true with something like the 𝐒𝐏1000. A very cool product, but if you own one of their devices already, not a dramatically different feature set unless you really want a battery-powered unit or touchscreen. Speaking of, why make both battery and non-battery powered versions? There's not a dramatic difference in the price, and it's not like the battery-powered can't be permanently plugged into a pedal board if you didn't have a use for the battery. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments because I'm really curious if I'm just being overly critical here. This space is so dense with modelers, and a lot of them are absolute experts at certain things. For example, if you want to go full-on component modeling and have the ability to tweak things infinitely, then Fractal is definitely for you. If you're looking for chic, bougie, but accurate profiling, then Neural DSP is the way to go. If you want accurate profiling, but your budget is an issue, then Tonex has you covered. It doesn't seem to me like Mooer has found their identity yet, and from an outsider's perspective, it's probably because they make so many different things that are so similar. And it's a really big shame because, like I always say, they were the first to really do this profiling and then using the profiles on other devices sort of tech. If they would have heavily focused on that 5 years ago, they would probably have a much larger stake in that field than some of the other big names that have popped up in that time frame. That's really my main criticism here. This actually feels like a new thing. This feels like something that they can get behind and push, but will they actually do that? I don't know. Look, as someone who benefits greatly from Mooer making new things every month, it feels weird to say that I want them to make less things and just focus on making this one thing truly great. But that's how much I like it. I just want this, and specifically the profiling process, to be better. and I know it's something that they're capable of. All right, so that's how I feel about the GS1000. I wouldn't have gone into so much detail if I didn't like it so much. It's easily my favorite multi-effects unit that they've released, and I just hope that they heavily support it and make it better instead of making several versions of this that do slightly different things. Unless they want to make a rack mount version. I'm all for that. Okay, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to Mooer for always supporting this channel and sponsoring this video. If you liked it, make sure to hit the like button. That stuff helps out so much. If you really like it, consider subscribing or being super overpowered and joining these beautiful people over here on Patreon, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.